All right, everybody, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. Thanks for being with us this Wednesday afternoon. My name is Chris. I'm curator for the Daily Planet Theater and your weekly host for our Lunchtime Discovery series. Every Wednesday at noon, inside the globe, you can meet exciting people doing exciting work. This series of presentations that we have every week is hosted on site here inside the Museum of the Natural Sciences, but it is a collaboration and a very close partnership between us here in the museum and the Office of Environmental Education within the Department of Environmental Quality. They do a fantastic job of finding the exciting people, and then we host the show here inside our space, and we all get to meet these people, ask questions, and learn something new every single week. The show is broadcast live online, so if you're tuning in on the web, thank you for joining us here inside our virtual space as well. Do know that you can post questions for our guest speakers online. We check those on the live stream site and on Twitter with the hashtag Lunchtime Discovery, so that everyone, no matter where you're at, here in the building or out in virtual space, you can be a part of the conversations that we're having here. For the month of February, the Office of Environmental Education has done, I think, an amazing job of pulling together a special series for this month because it is Black History Month. So I would like to bring to the stage and introduce to you the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee within the Department of Environmental Quality. Please put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Andrea Knight.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of DEQ's Diversity and Inclusion Committee and the Office of Environmental Education and Public Affairs, definitely want to welcome you. We are so excited to be partnering with the museum for these series of lectures for Black History Month. We're extremely excited to be kicking off our events with Kamal Bell, who is going to be speaking to us today about Sankofa farms and the very important work that he does and the role that the farms play in our community. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you all for having me, and also thank you for coming in just to hear a little bit more about Sankofa Farms. So I just want to express that this is going to be probably something new to a lot of people, and just keep an open mind as we all go through this journey, all right? The best way to go forward in life is to remember your ancestry. And embodying that concept gave me the motivation to start Sankofa Farms. Sankofa is a term that comes out of West Africa that means to remember what has been forgotten in order to move forward in life. So for us at Sankofa Farms, it means to remember our African ancestry as we move forward in life. So how I start off all my presentations is by giving a big thanks to my wife. She always talks to me about how, she's on the screen, so this is her holding the beads. She always gets on me about not talking about her during presentations, so to go ahead and address that, I made her the first slide of the presentation so she can never say I don't talk about her during the presentations. A little bit about my upbringing. I'm from Durham, North Carolina, so the beautiful city on the screen, and I had a very, very great opportunity to go to the early childhood care program at North Carolina Central. After that, my parents put me in an elementary school called Arn Harris. And when I noticed about these environments, they really nurtured young Black talent. And as I got older and transitioned to middle school and high school, my brother at the time, well, my brother's still my brother, he got in a lot of trouble, or he was getting in a lot of trouble. So our parents made a rash decision, and they sent us to Catholic school. I'm not saying that this environment wasn't nurturing, because I had a very, very good experience at Immaculata and Cardinal Gibbons, but I will say culturally the environments are really different, and I had to learn how to adjust to both environments. So I really got a lot of insight, and one of the things that I really paid attention to was how resources were allocated. So at these schools, it was an overabundance of everything that you could need. But I noticed that when I was at the childhood program in the best of that I can remember from being like 4 years old, and in elementary school, that typically the resources weren't always allocated, and we always didn't have available what we need to expand our learning experience. After I got out of high school, I had the great opportunity of attending the best university in the world, and it's the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. And here, my interest in agriculture was honed, and it was really developed. I was given a lot of opportunities at North Carolina A&T to work as a manager at some of the farming units. My most notable experience was working at the swine unit. And people always ask me, are you ever going to raise pigs? The experience was great, but pigs are tough, they're strong, they're gritty, they depend on what breed you have, depends on the litter. So not right now, we won't raise any pigs now, but it was a really good experience. I also was able to work at the organic farming unit. And while I was there, we got to raise vegetables, of course, but I really got to see how to take a bare piece of land and to actually develop it and use it for research purposes. So a lot of people ask me, like, Kamal, why do you farm? And I tell them, it doesn't feel like a job to me. So anytime that I'm doing anything farm related, it just feels like it's my duty and it's my passion to give what I feel like I've been afforded the opportunity to give to everyone else that is willing to listen. People ask me, why farm? The running joke that I got in college, when I told people I wanted to be a farmer, the first thing people always say is, why do you want to be a poor farmer? That's the first thing people would say. So just imagine like maybe a room full of 50 people. There's like a notable experience I had when it was an entrepreneurship class, and we were talking about ways to help communities. And I was talking to people about innovative farming models in the class. And then one of the students had a sarcastic comment, and literally all 50 people in the class started laughing at me. And there was maybe only one it was 49. There was one person who didn't laugh. And I remember just taking that experience and thinking about it and saying to myself, y'all are going to see one day what my vision is for this farm. And now, hopefully, some of those people are tuning in live right now, and they get to see. Farming also teaches you skills. I love the fact that when I get to work with youth, I get to show them so many different things as far as like beekeeping, and they've really taken ownership of that. I've gotten to talk to students about being on time, why you need to have an email at your age, you need to have a LinkedIn. These are just things that can really change the trajectory of the student. It brings people together. If it wasn't for farming, not saying I wouldn't have done anything else creative, but I don't think I would be in this room talking to you all right now. So farming really brings communities together, and also is service-based. I feel personally that everybody has something to give, and it's our duty to give what we've been blessed with to everyone else. So out of my experience farming and just being out just in the world and all my various experiences, I thought about something. I was like, all right, I'm 26 when I was starting the farm. I'm 28 now, getting ready to turn 29 on February 22nd. And I was thinking, how can we really make this sustainable? And while I was a teacher, I saw these youth that would gravitate toward the class. And I would get into the class, and sometimes the students would be staring out the window. We had a school garden at the time, and we had chickens running around. And the student would just stare at the animals. And I would ask him, like, why are you, like, you've never seen a chicken before? Why are you staring at the chicken? And he said, no, I've never seen one. I've never seen a live chicken. And I noticed that the students would start to change their behavior in order to come to my class. And they would start getting higher grades. And then when I developed a relationship with them and talked to the parents would tell me that their behavior improved at home as well. So I was like, you know what? I have an idea. Let me take this model of an agricultural academy to the principal, and we can do it here during the summer. So I'm thinking at the time, she's going to say, yeah, like, I want to help the students. And she got like the biggest attitude with me and was like, no, we're not doing that here. So I'm like, I wasn't expecting that answer. So what I decided to do, and if you look at the picture, you see those trees in the background. Literally, the whole farm was that. Before me and the students, we cleared the farm. I tried to bulldoze it myself, and it went horrible. And I had to pay somebody who did an even worse job than me. So right there, that's like $10,000 in the hole. And luckily, me and the students, We ended up moving the sticks, and then we had a neighbor to come by. He had a bucket on his tractor, and he helped push a lot of that material to the edge line. So through that whole experience, we ended up having to get really, really good at writing grants. We got a well. And now we have 2 Caterpillar tunnels, and me and the students manage 12 beehives. And this is 2 of the students in this picture inspecting the beehive. So literally now I can say, Kamani, Cameron, Jamil, Mikhail, Yakir, we are going to be at the bees today. The other 2 or 3 of us, we'll go in and we're working at Caterpillar tunnels, and they can do these things themselves. So it's been really good to see their transition, their development. And actually the 2 students in this picture, this will be their 4th year at the farm, so they've stuck with it and really embodied the true essence of Sankofa. So they're really dedicated to the farm. When you hear them talk, because they'll have their opportunities as well, you'll hear them say our farm, and that's what I want it to be to them. It's something that they have been a very much of every part of this farm, and I'm really happy that these 2 students have stuck with it. So there's something that we do on the farm. It has a really interesting name. It's called Bees in the Trap. And TRAP is an acronym for Teaching Responsible Apiary Practices. And we offer it through Airbnb, so people can come to the farm, they'll just get the information through Airbnb, and then they'll get to learn about the components of a beehive. So we'll go from the top cover all the way down to the top feeder, to the inner cover, to the frames, to the deep or the medium, whatever box the frames are in, and then we'll go through the bottom board, and then people will suit up, and then they'll actually inspect the hives with us. It's a really, really, really cool experience. It's at a really affordable price, and people love it. When I knew that we had something great was when I was talking to one of the attendees, and I usually ask people, like, where are you from? And she told me Pennsylvania. And I was like, oh, you have family here? And she was like, no, I drove down from Pennsylvania, and I met my friend in Georgia so we can both have this experience on Airbnb. So when I heard that, I was like, all right, there's something really cool that we have going on here, and we hope to expand it this year. There's another program that we do, and it's called STEM in Sankofa. Agriculture, in my mind, gets a really, really, really tough rap for being like a gritty job and not paying well, and people really haven't seen the possibilities that exist in it. But I've seen students literally change their trajectory because they like farming. So we started a YouTube channel, and my really, really close friend, and business partner, his name is Devin McAllister. We met at North Carolina A&T. He's a videographer and a photographer, and he shoots the episodes. So what we wanted to do with this, we wanted to create a bridge between science, technology, engineering, and math, and agriculture, because all of those values are present when you're farming. And I think a lot of people don't make those connections, so from an education component or perspective, this is something that we really wanted to nail down. So people can kids or anybody, adults, they can go to our YouTube channel and look at STEM and Sankofa videos and ask questions, and we're able to answer them and give a different perspective on agriculture. So one thing I always get asked, and I had to make myself I literally had to tell myself, put this in the presentation, is what do we grow? I always forget to tell people. I either forget to tell people what Sankofa means, I forget to tell them what we grow. So this is just a basic chart that we have that we use of things that we've grown this year. The biggest question I always get is, when will you have honey? So I actually checked in the bees yesterday. Well, some of the hives I was concerned about, and they're actually doing really, 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 really well. So we're aiming to we typically try to harvest honey around mid to end June, just so we give our bees an ample amount of time to make honey for themselves, but also so we can sell it to individuals as well. We also, right now, we're doing kale, chard, and collard greens, and we're doing a lettuce mix. We didn't plant a large variety of it, but in our Caterpillar tunnels, we just got them running with it hooked up to our irrigation system, so we just got them running. So we're just trying out just certain crops, but these things are growing very, very well. We're making sure that we get them the nutrients, to get the adequate amount of water, and we harvest the food, and we either send it home with our students, because everybody likes greens for the most part, or what we'll do is we'll sell it. So one thing that we've really tried to focus on with our students is bridging this gap. Historically, there has been a disconnect between African Americans and agriculture, just through racism. And what I feel like my duty is to do, it is to bridge the younger generation to the opportunities that lie within agriculture. So I noticed when I was going through this process with the USDA that there wasn't like an older farmer to tell me how to get through, or I didn't know any at the time. And I actually have a story of, I met a farmer actually 2 weeks ago at the Black History celebration. He farms in the area that I have my farm. And we're just talking. I was like, hey, where are the other black farmers in the area? Because I'm just thinking maybe there's like maybe 20, 25, even though it's a low number, they're just in the area still farming. And he says, we all got pushed out. I'm like, all right, like, joke's on me. Like, I asked him again. He said, we don't exist anymore. And I said, all right. I asked him, I literally, you see the history, but actually experiencing it firsthand, it makes you look at things a little bit different. And it just creates a certain emotion out of you. So I asked him again. I was like, all right, what happened? And he literally started giving me stories of how other black farmers in the area were pushed out. And he said, so I asked him, I was like, so where were the other ones? He says, outside of you, I know 2 more in this area. He talked about the stress, how there used to be so many black farmers in the area where we have our farm. And this is just a microcosm of what's happened nationally. I've heard other stories of black farmers and actually met other black farmers whose land was taken, or this story really I almost teared up when I was listening to this brother's story, and he told me that he was in the process of his land being taken away. He had already lost his house and he lost his wife, like when I met him. Like it was literally like in the coming, like maybe a year or two, and he was going through that process. Those are stories that really like kind of just make you say, all right, I have to do something about it. So my goal and our goal at Sankofa is to expose these young men to the obstacles that they will face just in agriculture and outside of it, because they're going to see the same thing again. You can't. The system was built a specific way, so we're going to run into those barriers. So our method is equipping ourselves the best way possible so that we can deal with these things. The picture on the left is actually of me, Jamil, and Kamani. Kamani's in the red, Jamil's in navy blue, and I'm in the white bee suit. And at the time, we were catching a swarm of bees. So right now, all the students you see on the, there's 3 of them that you see on this slide, and then there are 2 extra ones. 4 out of the 5 are certified beekeepers. So I'm certified along with them, and Jamil was actually 12 at the time of his certification. So they've really taken ownership with the bees. They actually are presenting tomorrow for Durham County Beekeepers Association. They're going to be talking about bee nutrition. And Cameron in the black suit, he's actually on the e-board for Durham County Beekeepers Association. So these are just things that we really want to give them leadership experiences as well, so they can go out. This picture here it would be your left, is me and the two of the young men, Kamani and Cameron. Kamani's in the gray suit, and Cameron's in the black suit. Just for anybody who, I'm saying a lot of names, just lost track. We're at the Atlantic Festival. So Bear Crop Science has reached out to us, and we've developed sort of like a working relationship where they provide a lot of support to our beekeeping operation. And the students were at the Atlantic Festival in Washington, D.C., speaking about how they take care of the beehives and just going in depth to their experience at the farm. So they've gotten opportunities of a lifetime, because I wasn't on a stage speaking in front of 300 people having to recite a script. Like, they really embodied that process, and they felt like superstars after it was over. So those are things that we really want to hammer down with our students. This is one of our caterpillar tunnels, and this is the top pictures when we first got the transplants in. There's actually a black farmer in the area that works really closely with us, and he's been like a mentor to us as we go through this process. And he got us some transplants, and in the bottom picture was the transplants about a month in. Now we're selling all of those goods, and we're just coming into like our own form of like independence with the farm right now, being able to generate our own revenue. This is our produce pickup. This was actually taken 2 weeks ago by Devin, our photographer and videographer. And what we do with the produce is, since we're tackling this issue of food deserts, the first time you've heard me speak on this, And the reason I don't speak on the issue of food deserts very often is because I think the topic is kind of oversaturated, and so people just throw it out they just throw it out when they're talking. But the whole purpose of Sankofa was to get healthy and affordable products to people who are affected by food deserts. So we came up with an idea, and we rent a parking space out at North Carolina Central University. It's an HBCU in Durham, North Carolina, and we sell our produce. So people can order from us online, and then we'll meet them there with their produce order at the campus. The idea with this is to sell food in a food desert, one, and it's going to take a lot of building up and a lot of marketing to get it to where we want into the capacity where we want, but we get people to come in, pick up their order, but we're also providing and shedding light on the community around it. So people in the community who are in walking distance can come and get food from us as well. And then also students. A lot of students stop by the table, and we get foot traffic from them inquiring about how they can get produce from us as well. And the last thing, we want to highlight HBCUs. We feel like, and I feel like, and a lot of people who attended them, we feel like HBCUs don't get the recognition they deserve. So we just want to take the attention that we get and also shed light to things that HBCUs are doing as well. And this is another picture from one of our customers at the produce pickup. It's just really interesting seeing people's response to like a black farmer, but also a young black farmer in that. So a lot of people will be like, hey, like you farm? The brother in this picture, he didn't say that, but he did ask. We have a really good working relationship, but he's just like, it's really inspiring seeing you. But people will stop by and they'll say, you farm? I'm like, yeah, but whose farm do you work on? Because it's hard for people to connect that. Like I'm 28 and we took initiative to buy a farm in 2019. It kind of sounds like taboo, but it really is. But we're hoping to really change that stigma. And then we also do a lot of youth education. Probably like the most, I'm not gonna say rewarding, but I guess the most exciting thing for me is being able to go by classrooms and talk to students about why we farm and just hearing their perspective. And this class was actually doing a really, really cool project at the Carolina Friends School where they were reading a book on environmental justice, and they were creating cities based on the layouts that we see now, and talking about how the people in certain areas of the city have different resources. And we know that food is a resource, and they were talking about the people who live in this area might not have access to food, but the people who make money, they do have access to the food. And that's the issue, and that's the conversation that the younger generation needs to be having, and that we should be having in order to try to fix to fix the system or to recreate a system. Because the system is broken, and so us trying to fix different components of it will just get absorbed by the broken system. So we need to create something new that serves people. And this is a picture of Kamani and Cameron just 2 weeks ago at the North Carolina History Museum, that the Black History Kickoff. And this is like something that they've owned. They were manning our station, our vendor station, while I was speaking. So me and Kamal were speaking, and Cameron was at the vendor station, and he literally was selling T-shirts, selling produce, talking about the farm, answering questions. He's literally doing this at 17. So just seeing instances like this and seeing them being able to take ownership, accountability for them to also, they were paid. They're paid speakers now. So just to see that, all right, it started with me, but now it's getting down to them. And then as we go, it'll go into my son. So these are just things that we're really embodying. And the last thing, I'm going to be doing a TEDx speech, so I just want to make sure I tell people about that. Just the attention the farm gets and the opportunities that we're getting is going to be shared amongst us all. So whether it's the students that I teach, I go into a classroom, I just want students to be able to look back at this and say, you know what, I can do that, or I can do something similar so I can empower myself and empower my community. So a lot of these things now, they're starting to pick up, but we're just finding our balance and not taking away too much time from the farm. And that's the whole part of them being able to go out and be representatives of the farm. They're at an age now where they can travel. So one day they might be doing a TEDx speech, or there might be an event we have in Washington, D.C., like, all right, Kamani and Cameron, I can't go, but you two can go. It's just the ownership piece, and I keep stressing the ownership piece because that's something that has been historically stripped away from black farmers, is we are in situations where we don't own the land, and that's how we're able to get pushed off. That's one of the ways we're able to get pushed off. So them taking the ownership, that's what I want them to really embody, is whenever you do something, you own it because you control it. Nobody can take it away from you. And the next steps for the farm, what we want to do, we want to expand. We really want to expand the educational component of the program. Right now, we have 5 young men who are committed. We want to expand it to 8 or 9 this summer. We tried doing this in the past, but we didn't have our infrastructure where it should have been, and our logistics weren't set, so we had all types of issues going on. So we want to expand the agricultural academy. We also want to scale up Bees in a Trap. That was a very good revenue generator for us this year, and we really want to make sure that we get it out to as many people as possible so we can keep funds coming into the farm. We also want to create more and additional revenue streams for the farm. So right now we have about 5. We want to get that up to solid, lucrative streams to around 8 or 10, just so we can ensure that the farm keeps going. Because the students, after they're there for 3 years, they have the option of getting paid. So they literally go from student to farm manager to getting paid. So we want to make sure that we have our system to support their growth in whatever they do. The 2 older students, Kamani and Cameron, they're going to be going to college in a year or so. So we want to make sure that we prepare them as much as possible for their next transition. And then the last thing, we want to automate Sankofa. Right now, we're working with North Carolina Central as well to incorporate more technology, because we have seen a lot with the farm in the last 4 years, and it's very, very labor intensive. We want to incorporate more technology to get the labor demand off of us so that the farm can run and we can literally be on our phones looking at it, or we can use more data. We can use data to make more informed decisions on the farm, because something with the bees is that you'll notice that they'll do their own thing when they want to. So we want to make sure that we keep technology incorporated into that practice to make sure that we're the best beekeepers that we can be. We also want to make sure we can raise the best quality of produce that we can by making sure that the crops are not getting too much water. That was an issue that we've had during the year because we have clay soil, holds water very well. And when we had the professor come out, we're going to incorporate soil sensors, but he was testing out the water content in the soil, and he was getting similar readings from a puddle of water that he was from areas near the plant. So we know that we have some way to go with infrastructure on the farm. And we want to create distribution channels to get more of our produce to the communities that we serve. There are barriers in that, and I'm probably thinking that's going to be the hardest thing that we do, but we're designing different channels and work with creating partnerships in the community so that we can get that all done and get the food to people who really don't have access to it. And if you want to follow our journey, these are all the platforms of which you can follow Sankofa Farms. Facebook is probably, no, Instagram is our biggest, well, it's the most convenient platform, but Facebook will incur a quicker response because sometimes you get spam on Instagram, but either way, it'll be me. Or you can just email us. That works really, really well. And LinkedIn is a shoe-in for us as well. And our website, if you go to our website, you actually have the option of subscribing to the website. So we'll send you monthly newsletters, and you'll get up-to-date information on when we're going to be doing our produce pickups and where, because we're also going to start doing produce pickups here in Raleigh as well. So if you subscribe, you'll be able to get that notification. And then YouTube, we're going to be doing more content, more videos to get more content on the Sankofa Farms YouTube page for learning, for educational purposes. So those are all the links that you can follow our journey and pay and keep up with what Sankofa Farms is doing, because it changes very quickly. So in April, you'll be seeing some new stuff out of the farm. We just want to make sure we keep you all abreast on all the things changing with Sankofa.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. You got time for a few questions? All right, let's do it. So if you've got something on your mind, wave at me. If you're down here on the first floor, I'll bring you a microphone so everyone can hear. If you're on the second or third floors, I see you waving. You'll have to yell down at us, but then I'll use a microphone. We'll repeat the questions, make sure that everybody can hear. Saw you waving, go for it.
So we first.
When you clear cut the farm, how did you get the stumps out?
All right, when we clear cut the farm, the first thing that I did wrong was just like knock over the top of the tree and leave the stumps. So we've really used a pickaxe to get them out, and we've also pulled them up by hand. So it's been very time consuming. And we actually, from the bad jobs that were conducted on the farm, we actually have another section that it's like the top of the tree has been moved down, but we have to work our way to start clearing that area as well. So we have some more clearing to do. Okay, thank you. No problem.
All right, others, wave at me if you've got something on your mind. Well, I had one, now I forgot it.
Hi, what type of time commitment do you expect from the students when they express an interest?
That's a great question. I expect the students to be there during the summer because that's how our program started. Start off as a summer program, but also, so just to like give like a number range, maybe around 24 hours during a week during the summer, but we ended up going out there more. But during the school year, twice a weekend. So 2 times a month on the weekends. And then on school breaks if they're open to go. Because I understand some students, they might be in a sport or they also might have other things going on. But as long as they want to come, some student like, hey, Mr. Bill, we haven't been to the farm in 3 weeks. And then we'll end up going to the farm. So that happens.
Could you give us an example of like one of the biggest transformations you've seen with one of the kids you've worked with?
All right, that's a great question. One of the biggest transformations that I've seen is with a student named Kamani. And anybody who follows the farm and knows me knows that like Kamani is probably the first student that I always talk about. When I first met Kamani, I literally have a note that he wrote me for Teacher Appreciation Day. I'll probably add that later one day. But he was very, I'm not going to say, it's not very reserved. Like he wouldn't talk to people. He was combative. Like if I said something to him, he'd probably say something back. And he wasn't very open. But as he stayed in my class, I saw him doing work one day. And I was like, what made you open up to me? He's like, I like the class. So then his grandmother came in one time. He got a little bit of trouble, and she was going around to his teachers, but she told me that he always comes home and he talks about your class. And I'm like, that's interesting. So then he started opening up to me. So then he would start feeding chickens. He would be one of the students, if something happened with the animals, he would go out in the courtyard and get them. And we were riding back home from the farm one day, and he looked at me. And this was probably like a year ago. And he said, Mr. Bell, he said, I didn't know what he was going to say. I thought he was like, I'm tired of being at the farm. I didn't know what he was going to say. But he told me, he said, I'm happy I didn't quit the farm. And I kind of like looked like, well, why'd you say that? And he said, it's the first thing in my life that I haven't quit, and I stuck with it. So that's the biggest, like now, we still have some ways to go. They're only 17, but he could be in here talking to everybody. He's usually the student who presents everywhere. So he went from not talking to me to work on the farm for 4 years, and now conducting presentations and workshops with people. So that's the biggest transition that I've seen with the student. And he's on the, they have dean's list? He's on the honor roll, he's been on the honor roll like almost every semester in high school. So he went from middle school, not making honor roll one time or being close. He got an A in my class, but to now being on the honor roll or dean's list, to now getting ready to go to college and looking to pursue a career in agriculture. So that's the biggest transformation I've seen in a student.
All right, others, wave at me. Do you find, I remember my question, do you find it challenging to diversify what the farm is doing in order to make sure you're bringing in revenue? As you mentioned, you've got bees, then produce, and then the Airbnb experiences as well. So do you have to do all of that stuff to make sure that you can continue to offer these programs?
That's a great question. I feel like we have to right now because I'm not on the farm full time. If I was there full time, we'll be cranking out we'll be doing a whole lot more. And I don't want to put somebody in not right now, in a managerial experience over the farm if I know that it wouldn't be consistent work and we couldn't give them like a livable wage for it. So we're consolidating it now, and by the end of probably August, we'll have somebody that can manage everything. But we have to be creative just with the mindset that's around farming. So we want to also be diverse. So I was looking at a comment from George Washington Carver, and he was like, special people do common things in an uncommon way. Or they do common things in an uncommon way. So we're farming, but we're just trying to just diversify it and make it look just make it look a little different, so the younger generation says that they can see themselves at the farm. Like my son, he had to go to school last week or the week before last and choose a career, and he had to choose a career that gave back and helped people in the community, and he ended up choosing to be a bee farmer to go into school. So as long as I see those type of things, I know that our diversity and how we try to diversify the farm is having an effect on someone or is working.
I have one last question. Is there a story, or can you tell us who designed the logo on your T-shirts? Really cool.
Great question. The logo was designed actually by one of my friends. He's an artist. His name is Clarence James, and he runs his art. I don't want to say production, but a studio. I'll say studio out of Washington D.C. And we had a logo before that it was an image of the Sankofa bird, and I was just like, I like it, but I don't really think it speaks to Sankofa Farms. And I reached out to Clarence. I was like, hey, can you do us a logo? So he drew a logo by hand of the farm, and that's what we see now. So the symbol that's up there's two ways that the Sankofa symbol appears. It's like the heart-shaped logo that you'll see if you go to our website, and then there's the bird that you see. So he used the Adinkra symbol of Sankofa to create the logo for it. So and then people always ask. We have T-shirts that we sell. We'll have some new T-shirts in probably next week or two. So everybody can go purchase a T-shirt online, and I'll ship it to you.
I've been worried about bees. How are they doing?
So you'll see a lot of information that bees are dying. People tend to focus only on honeybees, but there are hundreds or probably thousands or tens of thousands of other species of bees that are beneficial pollinators. Honeybees actually aren't that effective in pollinating. They aren't as effective as a bumblebee would be or a carpenter bee. They're better pollinators. So when you see that bees are going extinct, they're talking about certain species, but then they'll put honeybees. But honeybees are facing a lot of challenges. They're facing something that's called a varroa mite. And what that is, it's a little tiny mite that's probably the size of the head of the ball of a pin. And what it does is it creeps into the bee or into the cell. The bees lay in little circular patterns, like the hexagon pattern. It's a circle, but when they're compressed, they turn to a hexagon. And they attach themselves to the larva, and it stunts the growth of the bee and shortens the lifespan. Or what they'll do is they can't get to the larva, they'll get to the adult bees. And what they'll do, they'll eventually shorten the lifespan of the bee, so their reproduction cycle, it halts it, and then they'll eventually die out. And it's really detrimental to them during the winter time, or if beekeepers aren't treating. So when you see articles about bees facing various challenges, that's something that really affects bees, and also management practices. One thing that Bayer has helped us do is set up norms in our beekeeping operation. So we're really we go into our hives once a week. when it gets warm. And I'm actually going to start going into our hives more frequently on warmer days, because when I went in yesterday, I saw that the queen had already laid a ton of eggs and had larvae that was developing. So if I don't catch it, they'll be calling me to catch bees out of a tree or to catch them in somebody's rafter in their house, because they'll start swarming. So we're just making sure that we're really on top of keeping our bees healthy. My thing with them is certain colonies of bees don't have the genetics to adapt to the change in time. So I want to make sure that we give every colony a chance to survive. So I'm like really on top of we're really on top of our beekeeping program.
Antibiotics or?
So we use something called Apogard, and that gets it knocks the mite count down around June, and then we follow up with Aprovar. I was a skeptic at first at using any treatment for bees, because we don't spray at the farm or anything. One, it's too expensive, and two, I just like for things to take their natural course. I'm not against like pesticides or anything, but as long as we're using things responsibly as humans. But we don't technically do it for our vegetables, but for the bees, I tried not to, and then we almost lost all of our bees last year. So I was just like, all right, something has to change, and we traced the issue back to the varroa mites. So that's about as chemically infused as the farm will get, is with making sure we try to take care of the bees.
Hi.
How you doing?
Where do you guys sell your produce and honey?
So the produce we sell online because we can ship it. So I think the furthest our honey went out this year was to Kansas. I have a farmer friend out in Kansas, and we do that online, but we'll also make it available for our produce pickups. So the produce pickup right now is at North Carolina Central University in Durham, but I'm going to start looking into having one also at NC State to see if there's just when I figure out their system, because we have an abundance of produce, and have gotten people are starting to ask, like, hey, when are you going to start doing produce pop-ups in Raleigh? So that'll be coming in the next month or so.
Let's give Mr. Bell one more round of applause.
Thank you all.
Thanks for being here.
No problem, no problem.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks to all of you for being out here. Thanks to the Office of Environmental Education for setting this up for us, and to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for helping out, and to the digital media group here inside the museum for making this available online for anyone who wants to watch it again in the future. Thanks very much. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. See you later.